Thank you.
Well, no, we can keep this in because this is relevant to the conversation of the proof of my principles.
That's verbal. Yeah, that's verbal agreement.
Verbal agreement.
Yeah. Welcome back to Movie Banderas and Farx Brothers. I'm Kirk.
I'm Kyle.
And we're jumping right into the spoiler section with filmmakers Alex Suszko and Jennifer Prettyman on Babygirl.
So you want to start with the ending, Jennifer?
Is that where you'd like to start?
You're the guest on the show. You get to decide where we start.
Well, the ending, I guess, is the biggest problem I had with the film, as it often is with me in films.
Like
Can
you
I
and the
get a clean
substance.
version of that?
Oh, am I supposed to wait
You
until
should
there's
have
like a
done it
break?
right when they started.
Oh, well, I didn't.
Just go with the whole thing. Sorry, Jennifer. Please continue.
I feel like the ending just kind of, it just ended, you know? And it didn't, not that I need like anything that clearly presented exactly what everything meant or anything, but it just left so much up in the air. Like why? Like, how can they do that? How can they all of a sudden say, oh, he moved to Japan? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ends neatly, right?
It was just like, wow, we couldn't figure out a more interesting ending, so we're just gonna have him move to Japan. It's like, okay, so you have this scene which I thought was, I mean, it was pretty intense. It was probably the most intense part, you know, where he and the husband are getting into it, and she's trying to break it up, and then, you know, at the end of the whole thing, like you could see on his face that, you know, Samuel, that he just realizes, like, oh my God, what have I done? You know, kind of seems like, so maybe that's why it ended that way. Like he just realized it was wrong and had to move on. But I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that. Like, he's at her home, he's in her pool, right? He doesn't want it to end.
Yeah.
The husband just happens to show up.
I don't think he's sad about. Well, here's a question: do you think she got him the job, or do you think he got himself the job to go to Japan? Like, who chose for him to go to Japan, him or her, or both?
I think the guy who ran the company got rid of him, sent him to Japan.
Well,
That was the other lady. I forget her name, but the one right below Nicole Kidman's
No, she wouldn't have had the power to do that.
But
I think
she
the one
did
that she
threaten her,
basically
no?
told to fuck off at the end, I think he sent him to Japan because he was moving in on her at that point.
I don't think he run. Well, he might be the chief operating officer, but she's the CEO, so she would be outrank.
But he was her boss.
I think he was also a chief, but if she's the CEO, other than the board, unless that guy is on the board and has more seats than she does, she's CEO's on top of the other chiefs. Because I assume that guy was like a COO. So they don't tell us what you're talking about, the guy who comes in, like, tries to blackmail her into starting a relationship with him.
Yes.
And she says, if I want to be submissive, I'll pay someone to, And lovely. That's what Paul Giamatti does in Billy. Sorry.
I have to see that show now because you keep talking about it.
Just watch the first scene of the first episode. Isn't the sex with Antonio Banderas where she actually reaches climax after that scene?
But who is she thinking about during it? She's thinking about Samuel.
Is she thinking about Samuel, or is she thinking about the experience of being as submissive as a dog? I also didn't like that. It was a literal dog at the end. That seemed a little too on the
hilarious.
nose. And
when he pets the dog, you mean?
Yeah.
And he
Like,
makes
what
the
the hell
direct
was that?
comparison
Yeah.
between. Who am I to say? My wife's thought was that it is kind of childish of Nicole Kidman's character. It was, what was her character's name? I feel silly that I have it up on another tab here, so I'll just. It was no, that's wrong. Esme was her assistant. Romy, like the movie, Romy and Michelle, right? Is that a movie?
yeah, it's a movie. Yeah.
My wife's thought
movie.
was that for Romy to not tell her husband that she wasn't. So to your point in the non-spoiler section about like, oh, well, if your wife must enjoy if you can't tell, how do you feel toward the notion that she should have told Antonio Banderas this isn't what gets her off?
Technically, she does. She does, but not in the most direct way. She's put the pillow over her head. She's trying to communicate it, but it's very indirect.
You mean at the end or earlier on?
No, early on, like she puts the sheet over her head and she wants to like, I'll pretend I'm somebody else, right? That kind of thing. She is trying to tell him, but he just
Well, I have more
doesn't
empathy
get it.
for Romy than my wife does. Now my wife really has to listen to this episode because I feel as though maybe she didn't have the emotional tools to communicate to her partner what would get her off, for lack of better words, and that she is able to discover that through this affair with Samuel.
Right.
Thanks. Anyone disagree? No?
Okay, there's my issue. She suddenly has the ability to say at the end what, because she wants to save her marriage. What's her motivation for finally telling him directly, hey, this is how I like to be?
Because the guy she was cheating with and her husband got into the biggest sissy brawl
Yeah,
in
that was
a movie.
real sad fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because like the clearly larger, younger man doesn't want to like beat the crap out of an older man. And the older man's giving it his best, but like, nah, I thought that was very funny. I was laughing very hard during the scene when they were fighting, and so was that's why I think it's a comedy, because
I
of the
was sad
circumstance.
because I was hoping for an actual fight and not a.
You wanted it to be rougher. You wanted like Vin
Yeah,
Diesel to come
you know,
in and
No,
beat up.
he
It should
should
be a
have.
fight, yeah.
Somebody should have died. I would have
Not
liked it
died,
more
but at least
if
a
somebody would have
actual
died.
punch or blood or.
And this whole conversation kind of undercuts your fundamental reason for liking it, which is that you thought that these two characters were in love. Nothing at the end suggests that that is true.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I don't like the ending very much, because it's like
Doesn't that sink the movie then?
No, because I felt like, well, no, because at the end when she's having sex with her husband and maybe enjoying it, and maybe she finally climaxed, it's because she's thinking of Samuel. I think she did love Samuel.
I don't think she did. I think
think
there's a
she
difference
did.
between lust and love. She lusted for Samuel. She loves her husband.
I disagree that she's thinking of Samuel. I think she has a way in which she is able to climax, and she, once those,
Okay. Why is she able to climax at the very end when she didn't for 20 years?
Because they were just having normal like missionary style sex, and what she wanted was a little bit of her kink, and she was.
It wasn't that
I don't
kinky
think it
though.
was
They
no
didn't.
missionary.
It
They
wasn't
didn't really.
missionary?
They didn't
What?
really do anything
Yeah.
that
At the beginning,
different.
it was missionary. No, they did a little bit of the stuff over the head and like him like asphyxiating her a little bit. And again, these are, prurient things to me outside of this context.
So Kyle,
Yes,
she climaxed because she was thinking of Samuel.
that is your interpretation. I appreciate that. I wish my wife was here to argue whether or not that is what she thinks. I haven't asked her this, so like I can't argue on her behalf. I have her notes that were just that she chooses to go for years not sexually satisfied with her husband says more about her than it does about Samuel. And it seems like this is a powerful person stepping into her own power by finally embracing what, makes her happy, and that's great. And we find out a little bit about her past, which is that she comes from she grew up on a cult, and so she probably has some like weird things around like expressing herself, because of cults aren't well known for people having honest, direct conversations, are they?
Or, maybe she was, sexually abused as a young girl growing up in cults. I mean, that
Unknown.
happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
In different cults and stuff. Or maybe she was, kind of brought into that as a young girl and has issues with that. And then maybe got married and was trying to live this like normal storybook life or whatever. And it just isn't who she was. And so when Samuel came along, she was able to just express herself. I want to say that one of my favorite parts of the film was the club scene, the rave scene.
Where she takes ecstasy clearly from that water bottle.
Oh my God. It's like that scene was amazing. The way it was shot, it was so real, and that was one of my favorite scenes in the film.
I think that goes to my point though, because that's a scene where she's able to let go, and so much of the movie is we're seeing her closed tightly. And we know that when she's succeeded in the past is when she's been able to let go. Like the interview she describes where it was, hey, you got to tell us how many ping pong balls would fit into this room. And after several more questions like that, she finally told them to fuck off. And then they offered her the job. So that to her equated some like, oh, once I let go, can we stack these together and then come to the conclusion that once she's able to let go of her preconceived notions about how she is supposed to be with her husband, she's able to be how she wants to be with her husband, and gets her to climax. And, because the movie starts with her not climaxing, and theoretically she climaxes. Do we all think the climax is authentic at the end?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think you can tell much of a difference. I think she's a really good actress. As her character is. So
speaking as someone who's never climaxed as a woman, she knows, right? Like, she knows whether or not she climaxed for real. And I'll take this from a different direction. So, like, as one of the two people in the room who's actually married, I've found that it is helpful to be more and more open with your spouse. And so, in the opposite of that always leads to nothing good. So you're looking at me like, I don't know.
No, Alex looked at me weird, so it threw me off. I don't
know. Like I don't have some like make me drink milk out of something on the floor.
A plate, yeah.
And like my wife and I talked about it, like, do you have anything like that you want to? No, I don't. But like, God bless those that do. And I think that goes more towards like the inhumanity of corporate environments and all of the shit that Nicole Kidman's character had been through. We don't know what Samuel went through to make him this manipulative little prick, but
I think he was just there to have fun. I don't think he had some tragic backstory that made him.
I would buy like he was a trust fund kid, and he just needs like. Because we don't know much about his past. Is that?
Oh, so you're agreeing with me that it's just a conquest for him. It's not.
It is, but I think he's kind of testing the waters too a little bit in the beginning because he gets more confident throughout the movie for sure.
Wait a minute though, Kirk, you don't think he actually felt anything for her as the film went on?
No, I don't think he did. Yeah. Because I think he's...
Why would you?
Yeah.
Some old married woman?
Come on. She was beautiful. You see all the scenes where
she wasn't. She's plastic surgery laden.
Actually, my wife did point that out to me because when she laid down,
you're right. She has had a lot of plastic
barely
surgery.
Looks real, Nicole.
Some people like that. I don't know.
She has had a lot of plastic surgery. That is true.
But that's her choice. She lives in a country where she can do that.
But she looks amazing.
A movie that did this better and where it made sense was Harold and Maude.
Okay.
Harold and Maude. How can you
Did you see the movie?
Because it's about a younger man forming a relationship.
Yeah, but Maude is like 100 years old. She looks like she's like 100.
But the guy
some people are into that, Jennifer. Some people have kinks that,
No, but I'm saying the guy is presented as like some loser with zero options, and so with this old lady that finally shows an interest in him, he's actually attracted to. In this, the guy is not presented as having no other options. He's talking with other girls at the bar, presumably.
And he dates Esme,
and he
Romy's assistant.
Right. So
he wants to have a relationship with her. Like, I think he loves Esme.
So he presumably...
You think he's manipulating Esme and is...
I think he was doing that to make her jealous because it worked. You saw how obsessed she got. Like, there were times, like she was like, no, we have to break it off, or no, we can't do this, whatever. And so that was like his way of getting to her. And it did. Like, you saw how upset she got, at that party and stuff.
Birthday party for her daughters.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't want him seeing her.
What does he gain out of making her jealous if he already knows he has psychological control over her?
He's making her submissive in this by, like, he's cuckolding her to a degree. That's a form of submission.
More control.
Well, he doesn't need to do that, though. The dynamic is already there.
But
she drank milk off the floor on all fours.
Right, but when she tried to break it off with him, like when she was so upset that he had come to her house, right, which was very manipulative. I mean, you just see like in his face how upset. He didn't want her to break it off. He still wanted to see her.
No, I don't think he did.
Well, are you talking about the car scene where he like yells and breaks?
Because there are things that you just don't do if you want. Like, why would you show up at her house if you want it to continue?
I think it's part of his kink.
I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. If I want a relationship to continue, I'm not going to seek out the location of where their significant other is.
Well,
Yeah, but it's also that thrill of getting caught, almost getting caught like, oh, I'm teeter-tottering this whole thing. Like,
That was part of the
I'm in
excitement.
your life now, yeah.
He was meeting her family. They were.
But then
the
again,
family was
the
liking
point
him.
is not the love then. The point is
Yeah,
the
it's
conquest, the
manipulation.
risk, the
Well, it was
challenge.
kind of okay. I don't know if it was love, but it was kind of an obsession on both of their parts. They were both
Oh,
obsessed
No,
with each other.
he was not obsessed
Well,
with
he
her.
does have the conversation with her, I think in the car, where it's like, we're not dating, we're having an affair. And he like clearly understands this is something that we're each doing to get off with one another that is separate from like your romantic love with your husband. He goes, you look like a mom right now to her, because she is a mom. And that's part of her identity that she seems to be okay with. I don't know.
Yeah, and she had said to him that this is my family. This is the most important thing to me. Why are you here? Don't fuck this up, kind of a thing.
Because she didn't understand, because her daughter says this too. She's like, oh, I'm still with my significant other. I'm just
Right,
making out with this chick in the pool.
The lesbian daughter that cheats with,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. So this is a point that's brought up more than once where she clearly has an emotional investment in the guy. He could care less. It's like his side piece, pretty much, is how he views it.
I don't know. I think it turned into more than just a side piece. I think it started out as a side piece, and then it became more of an obsession for him. And so that's why it was so weird to me why at the end he just left and went to Japan. I think something came up and he had to go.
I think he's going to do it
he would have
again.
just left like that.
I think he's looking for a
Yeah,
new
probably.
conquest. I thought he left on his own, and he's going to find like a Japanese female executive and try to, there's like a Babygirl 2, the
Tokyo
edition.
Drift.
Yeah. It's pretty good, yeah. I watched that. Yeah.
I could watch the shit out of that. And then Nicole shows up towards the end. Rami, I mean. Let's talk about the daughters. Why do you think they had like?
Can we address Antonio Banderas?
Oh
real quick?
yeah, we're gonna talk about Antonio
He's-
Banderas.
I was trying to do women
He was
first,
like the worst written character ever.
He's terrible.
Total cuck.
Like-
Yeah.
Okay, there
He
is
is a
no,
cuck.
There's no way a self-respecting man with an actual career would stay in that marriage after he found that
kids.
out and do the sexual thing that the person she cuckolded him with did to her.
But that's because he loves her and appreciates that
No.
she hadn't been open with him about what she truly wanted. And
No,
I think people who have been in decades-long relationships are able to forgive. Like, people have cheated on one another and move forward. You're wearing
Kyle,
what?
you were right on.
Thank you.
Oh,
He's not presented as like not having a job or being some sort of grifter.
So here was my problem with I have a different problem with him than you do, Alex. So when she tells him that she had an affair once, she
Yeah.
lies and
Yes.
says, "Oh, it was just a one night thing, whatever."
and you don't know
He
him.
kicks her out,
Mhm.
right? And so she goes to the other mansion, like whatever.
The penthouse down in the
Like-
city.
So he's
The beach
upset with
house.
that and kicks her out. But
Mm.
then he finds that she's having an affair with this intern, and he finds him in the pool swimming, and them together. They fight, and then it's over, and then he takes her back. I'm like, wait a minute, you kicked her out because she had a one night stand with somebody, or so you thought. Then you find out that she was lying and dating this intern, and it was way more than a one night stand or whatever, yet you take her back so easily. So that I didn't buy. I don't think he should have kicked her out right after that if they were going to end it like that. Like, he just forgave her. I didn't buy it.
Well, he kicks her out, but he doesn't. It's not assumed necessarily that he's going to divorce her, but he's taking the upper hand to go, hey, I need space from this. Could it be that when he finds out that she lied to him the way that she did beyond the affair, that he looks internally into himself as the cuckold and goes, how do I not be a cuckold and love my wife better? And then that's why he's open to doing the things at the end that help her hopefully actually get there.
Yeah, I mean, very much so, because Alex, people forgive
No.
other people.
No.
People
This
don't
is-
forgive Alex.
No, see,
That's
this is
different.
why. This
Alex
is why.
doesn't forgive.
No, I
Christ
do
forgives.
forgive. I'm not going to stay married to somebody who's unfaithful to me.
You don't have to. Here's a different piece. He had already been violated by her in a different way because she assumed he had an affair, but he was not having an affair, or we're led to believe that he wasn't having an affair previously in the relationship. Is that
Okay, so the film is playing into all the misogynistic stereotypes of a woman.
what do you mean?
Paranoid about him having an affair that he didn't have, totally lacking in accountability because she keeps her job, keeps her husband, keeps her house, keeps everything.
Well, what do you think should have happened to her?
I think she should have lost her job, and I think she should have ended up alone.
I'm glad that she was able to step into her power, and I'm sorry you're not able to be happy for Rami as a character.
That's ridiculous. Like,
I've got a different argument.
There's zero accountability for any of her actions. It's just like she gets scolded by the person under her. You need to be a good leader.
Wait a
And
minute.
that's
Her actions.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she wasn't raped. She chose to be in this situation with this younger guy who worked for her.
He blackmails her throughout most of the film.
To the non-spoiler point, point I made in the non-spoiler section is that he could Me Too her at any time, and he points that out in the hotel room.
Brings that up almost every time.
Yeah.
Okay. I could ruin
Why
your life
is
now.
the woman? Why is the woman always the bad guy? That's what I want to know.
I think the bad
Why
guy.
is she? You're making her be the bad
Because-
guy. She had to have
No,
consequences.
I say he's a bad guy too. If he's in a relationship with this other woman and he's still having sex with Nicole Kidman, he's a bad guy too.
because you're a saint. You've never done anything like that, right? It's like
No, I haven't. I haven't cheated on it and
It's
a
a bait show,
significant
not a
other.
confession show, but
I have not.
guy.
I've always been single. If I've been sleeping around with multiple people, I've always been single when
brag
doing it.
about it. All right,
Yeah.
okay. Here's a
He's your game.
but
I've never been married or in a serious relationship where I've also been having a side piece or lusting after somebody
okay,
else.
and you
Single
can.
man
You
right here,
can.
ladies
I'm
and
sorry. You
gentlemen.
can cut this out if you want.
No, this is
but
great.
you have been with married women.
Yeah.
So okay. So if
we had that
a
in the other
married
episode.
if a married woman is having an affair, she should have consequences. But it's okay for you to fuck a married woman.
Yeah,
Because you're
where's
not
my
married.
commitment to anything? I haven't
No,
made
wait
a
a minute.
commitment to anything.
Why is it okay for
You're
you
a
to fuck?
homewrecker, Alex.
Why is it okay
No,
for
I'm
you?
not.
Why is it okay for you to fuck a married
Yeah, come
woman?
on.
Well,
But
one,
the
I
married woman needs to have consequences.
One, I usually
What's that shit?
don't find out that they're married until after it's already
Oh,
happened.
bullshit.
Whoa, come
And
on.
then
Bullshit.
two,
This is Jerry Springer right now. I love it.
I'm not violating any contract I've made with somebody. I'm a single dude.
You're still a homewrecker.
Yeah, but you're breaking up families. What happens
No,
when
not
that-
deliberately. Okay, if I'm out at a bar and some 50-year-old cougar whose husband's junk doesn't work anymore comes up to me and starts talking to me.
Whoa! But does she have a ring on? You're
Yeah.
supposed
I
to
don't
look.
know. I don't look.
Oh, shut
Totally
up.
look.
No, I
You know what, Alex?
Why would I
are
look
you,
at that?
Why are you lying? This is going to be cut out.
No, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this?
So
I don't-
every married woman you've been with,
which
you
is like
didn't-
two.
You didn't know she was married. You're a fucking liar.
No, I
Take
didn't.
the cross off, Alex.
I didn't know she was married until
It's fine,
after
it'll
the stuff
burn him
already
later.
happened.
If it touches his skin, note that it's on outside his shirt. The
Yeah.
chain should be like cutting his head
No,
off.
it's.
I'm going to give you a clean edit point.
Thank you.
Well, no, we can keep this in because this is relevant to the conversation of the proof of my
That's
principles.
verbal. Yeah, that's verbal agreement.
Verbal agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Keep that in
totally
check.
don't agree with you and don't like the way you live your life. But Antonio Banderas is in the theater. He comes from the arts, and I think that specifically, it's unclear if because he's got the full accent. If he's like European or something, I think that there are more. It's more common to see affairs in
Oh yeah.
European. Okay,
It's definitely more acceptable. Absolutely. And his ass would have had many, so.
Wait, you mean Antonio Banderas would have?
Yeah.
But he didn't. He said he didn't.
And his character and him.
So
yes.
you think he had cheated on Nicole Kidman? Or whatever Antonio Banderas is his
Yeah.
name?
Oh, absolutely.
You think he? Oh
Yes.
wow, that's I'm going to defend Antonio Banderas' honor.
Okay, you defend away.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I just like there are guys who don't cheat or get women to cheat, Alex.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I mean, there are younger
I mean,
actors who wants a role in your theater play.
How do you not have the self-control to say I'm in a marriage with children?
What about the women? What about Nicole Kidman?
And
She
I'm
should have
over.
self-control not to do that.
That's what I'm
either.
saying.
People don't have self-control. Come on.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
I do. I don't
Do you
know
wanna
what,
keep going there?
how people can just let a lust overtake any rational thought. If you don't love your husband anymore, divorce him and go sleep around with young dudes.
Oh, we have talked about this on the show before because there's lots of movies where like the guy stops being in love with the woman and then he tries to kill her. Oddity
murder
comes to
is
mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
Divorce
murder is better
not.
than divorcing the relate.
Well, there's so much at stake, like with finances and shit.
Oh,
like
God.
split
Oh,
right down the middle,
yeah.
man. I watch Forensic Files. I've seen every episode.
Wait, is that one where like spouses kill each other a lot? Forensic Files.
Well, yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's been on for years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean,
There's got to be statistics around this, and I'm not gonna check AI right now
Let's
about
dive into
this
that.
minute. Well, like,
yeah.
what is
I
it?
will be so interested to see how much of this ends up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
I don't know why any of it would. We're talking about fundamental principles of committing to the person you say you're committed to.
I wish my wife was on this episode. She said she felt guilty due to her cheating on husband. As the viewer, it was uncomfortable only because she is married and lying to family regularly. Do you think my wife just wrote that so that because she gave me notes? She had
No, I
intended to
think
be on the
probably
episode.
your wife is of greater morals than
Good person.
Nicole.
But she
Kidman.
didn't start a robotics company.
I don't know what that has
She
to do with
specifically
anything.
loved the father figure scene, and that is when we see Samuel undressed for the first time. My wife noted, and I didn't notice that, but she did.
What
so
scene?
the "I will be your father figure."
Oh,
When he's-
the weird
Um,
like Matt Smith
that was-
dance from Morbius.
Yeah, that was-
that kind of thing.
I really enjoyed that scene.
Is it because he's shirtless and he's a thin man who's tall
He's-
with abs?
He's very hot.
Okay.
Yeah. No, not because of that. No, not because of that. Because I thought it was, I don't know. I just think it really showed the two of them and what they were into each other, and I thought it was a great scene.
Well,
That's all.
why is she turned on by him dancing to a song from her youth that's about being a father figure when she has a literal father figure in her life? That for me was a real head fuck. That I mean, that's what I go to the movies for.
That's what's so great about it.
Is to have my head fucked
Yeah.
before I lick milk up off the floor. What do you think the significance of the milk is? Is it because the obvious thing?
Submissive, yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry, this is a Louis C.K. joke. And
So he was kind of baiting her, right? Like he sent the milk over. Is she really going to drink it? And she looked at it for a while,
yes.
and she's like, "What the fuck, right?" And she fucking drank it, and right then he knew he had her.
Yes. But why milk and not orange juice?
I don't think it
milk is
mattered
like
what
semen.
it was.
Oh, well, I did think of that, but I
didn't think of that. Yeah.
the counter to that would be the Louis C.K. joke, which is like, when you see a pair of large breasts and you're attracted to them, what you're really thinking is, oh man, those will feed my children well, because that's the evolutionary reason that you would, is that, oh, that will feed my young one.
The milk could have represented that, because like she's a mommy figure to him, right? Because she could literally be his mommy, and all
I don't know,
boys,
she's not a mommy figure.
all
to
men,
him.
all men, like it's like the Oedipus thing, right?
Yep,
It's
yep.
like you want to.
Bang your mom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a weird thing with that. It's just,
You heard the
I think that's what the milk represented myself.
That's fantastic. Have you guys heard the
That's
Anthony
fantastic.
the Anthony Jeselnik joke about Freud?
No, go
Freud's
ahead.
mom must have been so hot. Are you kidding me? How hot must his mom have been for his colleagues to be like, yeah, dude, publish that. That, the Oedipal thing that you were referring to, but obviously Freud
Yeah.
played around with. What do you
Yeah,
think
no,
Freud-
it's a thing. That's what the milk was. Mhm.
So you guys don't think this movie is very like kinky? Well,
It's surface level. It doesn't go.
I think it should have been female gaze 50 Shades of Grey.
Female gaze. But it was because
No, it
Harris
wasn't.
Dickinson.
Because,
you don't know. You're not female.
No, I know.
Femcel.
No, I know because of the execution. Is this tries to be like some sort of pretentious, more artsy above the sleaze of something like 50 Shades of Grey. And it doesn't work. 50 Shades of Grey is just like, yeah, this is just sex for you guys to enjoy it.
Do you know what 50
And so
Shades?
it owns its identity as some sleazy piece of erotica. This is trying to be like, oh, we're making a deeper statement about women in leadership roles in corporations, and it's
No, I thought that was part of what sets up the situation is her having that role is what makes it possible to have.
no, but
I don't think that had as much to do with it as you're saying.
no, it
I
didn't.
think that was
Because her underling, whatever that Esme literally looks into the camera, and says, like, we need more women in leadership roles. Like how you could not walk away thinking that there wasn't some sort of statement being made when a character literally looks into the camera and says, we're going to start putting women in leadership roles.
I think it's about how power ultimately corrupts folks, because Esme says earlier to Romy, I thought a woman in power would have been different and, not abuse their underlings, because Esme sees what Romy is doing with Samuel as Romy taking advantage of Samuel, even though she
As a man would, yeah.
As a man, wait, what?
As a man would in that position.
As a man
yes.
would take care. Yes, yes.
That doesn't even work because there's no consequence for her.
There is consequence. She's at risk of losing her company at an important time. She has to elevate Esme to a role that she may or may not have intended to elevate her to, because basically she blackmails her, kind of the way Samuel blackmailed her into a submissive relationship with her that she seems to be cool with at times. I don't like your 50 Shades of Grey thing, because do you know how 50 Shades of Grey came about?
Well, it was a bunch of horny widows that wanted
Twilight fan fiction.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was Twilight fan fiction is what brought you 50 Shades of Grey.
All right, well, whatever.
And you know what Twilight is?
From some horny old woman who wrote it.
Stop saying old women in a derogatory way.
It's kind of offensive. Like the old
why is that
woman-
offensive?
Because
if you're
old,
you're
what is old?
It's a pejorative
to you?
term.
Okay. I'd say past the half point of your life expectancy.
You don't know when the half point of your life is unless
life
you kill yourself.
expectancy.
Okay. That's
50?
Yeah. So something
40
like 50.
maybe?
I mean, fine. You want me to use another word?
She's middle-aged.
Mature
She's
women,
middle-aged.
We'll say.
By the estimate you've just made. I'm middle-aged by that estimate too.
So,
and
I don't know why that's
So he's
offensive.
calling us all old because he's 28.
Some 28. So Twilight though. Who wrote Twilight? What was the religious background of the person who wrote Twilight?
I don't know anything about Twilight.
It was written by a Mormon, and Twilight is a metaphor for not having sex, because
really?
she won't have the sex with what's his name?
I don't think
Edward.
it was that deep.
Because
Yeah.
it's a Mormon talking about like, hey, let's not bite the girl until we get married, and then when they get married, he bites her, and then they have the baby. Or wait, does he bite her during childbirth?
I've never seen the
I've seen all
movies
5
or read
movies.
the books.
What's the weird thing about that movie with the kid?
The kid,
that Jacob imprints on her,
The
on
werewolf?
her kid. Yeah, so that the kid technically has to be with Jacob when she's older.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that's like,
that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, that's creepy.
it's something in the book. That's not for me.
But you brought it up.
I was bringing. I'm not going to call Mormons a cult. I'm just saying that Romy's character was in a cult, and Twilight is written by a Mormon woman who's specifically talking about, like, saving sex until marriage.
So I have not seen Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey, and I have no desire to. So I'm sorry I can't join in the conversation.
Totally
on that.
fine. I wish I wasn't aware of. I'm, as a movie connoisseur, I try to stay apprised of what is the popular at any given time.
Yeah, you keep bringing that up. So
I'm sorry.
I mean, 50 Shades of Grey is what you would expect it to be.
Yeah, it's a lot more submissive. It's a lot more like whips and
they're
tools.
actually, the relationship is more authentic in that movie than it is in Babygirl, because you already have the power dynamic that exists between the man and the woman in the corporate sphere. And so that just translates to the intimacy. They're already a power dynamic. In this, they're reversing the power dynamic for the sex, where the power dynamic in the corporate is the woman above the man.
I don't think they're reversing it for the sex. I think women's earning potential could surpass men's in the United States in the future, because more women are going to college than men are. More women are, getting ahead in the corporate.
What does that have to do with any point
I don't
just
understand
made?
the correlation.
Because you just said the corporate structure of 50 Shades of Grey, where a really rich guy gets a ingenue to be his submissive, is, well, that makes sense. And I'm saying, well, the reverse could make sense as demographic trends change.
That's not what I said. You're mischaracterizing what I said. I said both make sense in the corporate sphere. I mean, I had an executive director who was a woman.
Good.
So
put that on a resume.
Can I just say that
but
you
sexual
need to realize
translation
that
is not.
Alex is a 28-year-old boomer.
28-year-old boomer. Oh, wow.
No,
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, somebody refute my point then. You have the man above the woman in the corporate relationship in 50 Shades of Grey, and in the sexual relationship, it's the man dominating the woman. In Babygirl, you have the woman above the man in the corporate situation, but then somehow in the sexual situation, it's the man above the woman. That doesn't make sense.
Why doesn't that make sense? You're talking about stereotypes, okay? That isn't real life.
No, I'm not talking about stereotypes.
That isn't real
about
life. Just because you don't have power as far as money or your job situation, it doesn't mean you can't have power over somebody.
Here's another example. Fatal Attraction. Who's in the power position in this sexual relationship there? Glenn Close or Michael Douglas?
I haven't seen it since I was like 12, so I don't know.
Wait, what?
Whoa, 12?
12?
You saw that when you were 12?
This explains a lot.
Does your mom know that? Did she allow that?
His mom showed it to him.
I don't think his mom would have
12
let him watch that. I know his mom.
Oh.
Yeah.
12 is, I mean...
But Fatal
It's a
Attraction.
year before 13, and that's an R-rated movie, so it's pretty close.
Right, yeah, so...
I saw it when I was a teen. I probably haven't seen it since I was...
So-
Yeah, but I was like a teen who was into movies, so I went and saw every movie. Like,
Well, I was a preteen who was into movies.
but that's you don't have the... maybe you did because of the internet and growing up in a different time than I did by... almost a decade. But do you see what I'm saying is that you've given an example of, in the corporate structure, the woman's above the man in Babygirl, and in 50 Shades of Grey, the man is above the woman, but then the power dynamics in the sexual relationship is the man above the woman. And
in
I'm
50 Shades of Grey, it's consistent. In Babygirl, it flips for some reason.
Because of her having a different position than him. Then what's her name in 50 Shades of Grey? Dakota Johnson's character.
But it doesn't flip in 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, and that's probably why it's not as interesting or as lasting as it maybe.
No,
Babygirl
actually,
might
I think
be.
it'd be way less popular if it did flip. If somehow Dakota Johnson was the dominatrix of Christian Grey, whoever plays him, the book would have never sold anything. And certainly movies wouldn't have been made, but even if they were, it wouldn't have been nearly as popular.
But in 50 Shades of Grey, she's being submissive, and Babygirl, she's being submissive. So it would make sense. It would work.
No, it wouldn't work.
Why wouldn't it?
One is consistent across the relationship dynamics.
But she wants to be submissive in 50 Shades of Grey.
I think
But she wants to be
is
submissive
already because she's an intern compared to a CEO.
Where I think we're bumping right now is that why does the corporate structure have to be reflected in the romantic structure you're describing?
Because it makes sense if you already feel a sense of submissiveness towards somebody, that in an intimate situation you would want that translated.
But the point of this movie is that it's switched. She's going from being the powerful person to being the submissive person. And the example I gave in both the non-spoiler and spoiler section is that you find this with like the people who go to the dominatrixes that cost a lot of money in big cities are people who have a lot of power. So they like to reverse their power in some of these circumstances, as has been shown and attested to, by things I've read, not experienced. So I experience this through movies or reading about it. We had someone on, I'm going to keep referencing Lori. She brought up a sex worker from Australia that she follows on TikTok. And she was like, she finds the logistics that the woman talks about to be interesting. And I was like, oh yeah, I could see how like the logistics, I'm curious about the logistics, even though I'm, not necessarily seeking out sex work content.
So Lori follows a sex worker from Australia on TikTok?
Until it gets banned in, when in the next week or so, I guess.
I'll have to ask her about that.
Is
Who
it
exactly is this
Lily
person?
Phillips?
What?
Is it Lily Phillips?
I have no fucking
who it
idea
was.
what the name of the sex worker in Australia that Lori she brought it up on the.
Well,
it's
I really
in the
want to
episode.
know now.
Well, okay, ask her to comment that on the episode as published so that we can all follow this. I don't use TikTok. Do you remember anything about Fatal Attraction, Kirk or Jennifer?
No.
Do you feel like this is a fair comp in a way to this movie?
I mean, I get what you're saying.
What am I saying? Because I'm not sure I do.
I'm not sure I do either.
Just
Jennifer
that
said she agreed with you, so I wanted to hear how she
So
clarified.
you talked
what you
about
said.
power dynamics in corporate environments and then that being reflected in romantic environments. In the corporate environment of Fatal Attraction, it's similar to Babygirl in that Michael Douglas is over Glenn Close, but then Glenn Close gains the upper hand on Michael Douglas until Michael Douglas's wife has to kill her at the end of the movie. Sorry, spoilers for 1987's Fatal Attraction.
So Alex just wanted somebody dead, basically, at the end of the film, and he would have been happy. Would you have liked the film then if somebody died?
Who would you
Would have
have
been a lot
killed?
better?
Yeah, who'd you have killed? Let's all go around.
I do like nihilism in movies, so yeah, I would have preferred if somebody died.
So who should have died, in your opinion?
I think it would have made the most sense and would have been redeemable if Antonio Banderas killed the guy.
That would have been interesting. Okay.
If he killed the guy and left Nicole Kidman, I'd say, okay, there might be some sense to this situation. But because he fights the guy, and then I guess it's just like, all right, nah, we're cool. I'm just going to do what you did sexually. It just, none of it works.
I get that. I get why you feel that way at the end. I do.
And so,
I do.
and if Antonio Banderas had killed the guy and left Nicole Kidman, I'd be having a different conversation.
Did you guys see the movie with Richard Gere and Diane Lane, where she has an affair, and then I can't think of the name of it. Richard Gere ends up murdering the guy she has an affair with.
Yeah, I know the movie. I've seen.
So that's already been done.
Okay, but
Yeah.
that was probably a better movie then.
It was a good movie.
I was going to argue the opposite of Alex in that it would have been interesting to me if Samuel had accidentally killed
The husband?
Antonio Banderas, yeah, and then I think it's Primal Fear. No, it's not Primal Fear. That's the one.
No.
I'm going to his IMDb. I'm sorry.
Searching on the
Unfaithful.
internet right now.
Unfaithful.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have seen that on like TV back 15 years ago.
Yeah. So that was already done.
So suck it, Alex.
He kills the
I mean, most of Hollywood is stuff that's already been done.
So if Samuel had accidentally killed Antonio Banderas and then Nicole Kidman and Rami and Samuel had been left to like deal with that situation, that's something that would be interesting but not thematically part of the movie. The movie's where it was intending to go, starting with her not being able to, and then I'll just say orgasm. I don't know why I'm stepping around this based on the conversation.
Yourself,
sorry.
So is the moral
podcast.
of the story, if you want your marriage to like be more exciting, if you want to orgasm, just have an affair with a young intern?
No, I think if she'd
And
just been
then
more honest with herself.
Yeah.
Like my
Direct
wife's
away
comment was that
yeah.
it's
What do you like
childish
in
of her
bed?
to have not like been honest from the beginning about like to lie for years about being unsatisfied. And that was maybe more common in the past, but I don't know which wave of feminism we were on. I thought we were egalitarian and, we're all trying to be equal, right?
Again, I think you're trying to give it too much credit. I don't think feminism is that far ahead, Kyle.
I am no arbiter of where feminism is. I'm saying that arguably in a sexual relationship, both parties are getting what they want out of it.
Yeah.
And it clearly was not the case at the beginning of the movie. And Tony Banderas clearly wants to give Romy what she wants. She's just unable to communicate it to him, even though she's a powerful executive. She needs to go through this adventure to...
Adventure. You mean affair. Yeah.
Affairs are an adventure unto themselves, Kirk. I have no basis to state that on other than watching movies and reading books. Any closing thoughts? Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Oh, God. I don't even know. I don't even know where this has gone.
Did you find it empowering at all? Is the movie in any way empowering to, I don't want to say women, but like to Romy's character by the end?
No, not really, because I feel like it's unresolved. I don't believe her orgasm at the end because I don't believe that she is going to be happy with her husband from now on. I think she's still always going to want Samuel, and she's going to miss what they had. And she's not going to be able to get that from her husband.
Babygirl, Tokyo Drift. Different question, Jennifer. How do you think that Romy would have handled the same situation with her colleague at the end of the movie where she says, like, fuck you, I don't need you to come over to your house and, like, be blackmailed into a sexual relationship with you just because you know about my, tryst with an intern. How do you think she would have handled that toward the beginning of the movie before all of this affair with Samuel, excuse me, Kirk?
The same way.
Really? Okay,
Yeah, I'd say the same way. Because she already told them to fuck off the first time, so...
Yeah, I don't think she would have... I think her only vulnerability was Samuel. And that's what made it so powerful to her, is because he was the one person that could make her drink milk out of a fucking bowl. I mean, seriously.
It's almost romantic.
It kind of is.
Ugh. Did you see Nosferatu, all of you? I know what you're
I haven't yet.
Nosferatu is like the second best movie of the year.
Wow.
Because some people have compared this movie to that movie, and it's like,
No.
I don't know. We'll leave it on a curious note. Unless Alex has any closing thoughts you want to get out there. I think you've dug yourself a pretty good hole here, but
he is in the grave.
How have I dug myself a hole?
And just the point that he has no idea that he did.
I mean, all I've said is that I didn't find the relationships particularly authentic.
That's all you've said.
that's all.
I
That's
think
all.
that it's a good moral principle to not cheat on your partner.
Because he has so many morals.
I didn't think that was a controversial point, but apparently it is.
Definitely, I agree. I want to wholeheartedly agree with you that it's good to not cheat on your partner.
Okay, so we're
I think those two would agree with you too.
I think that the movie had a message, but its message got confused through its execution.
What do you think the message was? Just try and put a nice bow on this.
The message was that women ought to be.
It's not starting well.
No,
Women ought to be.
Women ought to be allowed to explore their sexual desires, regardless of commitment. And if that's something I just on a moral level disagree with. So
What?
Whoa, wait. Yeah, I thought you were for women being able to explore their sexuality.
I told you he's a 28-year-old boomer.
But then you just said they shouldn't do it because
no, if you're married, you shouldn't be exploring your sexuality with other people.
Okay, let's bring it back to like being a single guy. But you're okay with going after married women.
Well, I don't go after them. They find me, and
so
I just
as long
as
as they are the ones
initiating,
and he goes, if they initiate, he'll go with it, and that's okay.
But it's okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Do you fucking hear yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear yourself?
You could listen to this episode. It's always good to get more listens. We'd like to get our count up.
Do you hear yourself? I'm just...
Well, because what?
Several people will.
Okay, I'm not understanding. how a single guy with zero commitments is somehow super at fault for if a woman comes up and talks to him and...
Because you can't say, no, you're married, I'm sorry.
Well,
no.
Like I said, I didn't know that they were married until after the fact.
But what if a really hot woman came up to you?
Yes.
Please come back. Let's go back to my place. Whatever. You see she's married. Would you say no?
I would ask if she was wearing it so guys wouldn't hit on her.
Maybe like 2 years ago I would. Now I probably wouldn't.
Whoa.
Oh, and what happened in those 2 years?
He went from 26 to 28.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I got more principled.
What? It sounds like you got less principled.
I got more principled. I just don't think if you're in a relationship or
Liar.
married that you should be sleeping around with other people.
That's
I didn't
a
think
hard
that was a
edit.
controversial
No,
point.
Unless it's you doing it.
I'm not in a marriage or a committed
No,
relationship.
But you could be with somebody who is, and that's okay because you're not.
No, I didn't say
It's
that's
their
okay for
fault.
them.
Wait, is
They
it
need consequences, not you.
Can I gender flip this on him? If a woman sleeps with a guy that's married, the woman's not at fault, but the guy is. Is that how you see it?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, he's consistent, so like we're not gonna fix this one. I mean,
Okay,
That's the exact same situation, just reversed.
So if a prostitute, like the Johns, shouldn't be arrested, right? Yeah.
neither of them should be arrested. Just so we're clear on that, sex work should be, made
No, but
to be
in
safer
Alex's
or-
mind, like it's not.
I think
It's not the man's fault who's picking up the prostitute. It's the prostitute's fault, right?
where did you get that from? If the prostitute is married, yes, I would have a problem with her.
Well, that's assuming the Johns are married. I think it is illegal to solicit sex for money in some places.
The principle I'm setting is if you're in a committed relationship, you don't sleep around with somebody else. Why is that controversial?
It's not. It's just the part where you're willing to be the homewrecker.
But I'm not in a committed relationship.
No. You're wrecking someone else's home. Like, even just because you're not in a home doesn't mean you can't wreck someone else's home.
But now we're talking about two separate principles. I'm talking about if you're in a relationship and you cheat on your partner. You're talking about somebody not in a relationship that hooks up with somebody in a relationship. Those are two separate
another
principles.
point is you have never been in a serious relationship, and so therefore you make yourself totally available to like.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I don't make myself totally available.
So you're not.
There's been several calls he's received that he has not answered during the meeting. You don't know that's not married women going, "Oh, Alex, I need it right now. I can't get anything else. You're my Samuel."
Well, okay, but then my counter to that would be, so I've never been in a committed serious long-term relationship with somebody. Uh-huh. So I've never broken my principle of don't cheat on your significant other.
You're talking about something you know nothing about. So you're saying you should not do this, although you have never.
Okay, so you're saying people should cheat on their partners if they feel like it?
No, that isn't what I said.
You don't have the experience, is what she said.
I'm saying you don't have the experience to even have
Okay, then explain to me where I'm wrong. Should people cheat on their significant others or no?
Of course
I'm
not.
not saying anybody should. That isn't what I'm saying.
Then what are you disagreeing with? Because that's the only thing I've said.
What I'm saying is that it happens, and being that you haven't been in a situation where that would happen, maybe you shouldn't have anything to say about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like people talking about shit that they know nothing about,
so let's just
and then
strip this down to what you're trying to put a bow on.
Kirk, put your clothes back on.
Which is, you disagree with the principle that people ought to stay committed to who they've committed to.
No, that isn't what I said.
That is what you said.
No,
You said
that is not what you said.
Yes, it is.
Thank you,
She
Kyle.
said
That is not what I said.
It happens.
I said that you.
It happens.
That
What?
doesn't
Just
negate-
somebody just snaps their finger and all of a sudden a spell comes over you.
No.
And
I'm saying like
you're in the room, Alex.
Okay,
No.
here's the
I mean,
thing.
that's ridiculous. Have some self-control.
Yes, Alex, have some self-control.
If I was never abused, okay, I would not have the right to say to a woman, you should never stay in an abusive relationship. You know, what is wrong with you? You need to leave. You need to whatever, right? It's like, if you haven't been through it yourself, you have no right to fucking judge or say anything.
Yeah, I do.
Okay? No, you don't.
Yes, I do, because
No, you
I've
don't.
lived by the principle that you don't cheat on your significant other. Why is that controversial?
Okay.
Somebody still has to explain to me why that's controversial.
This guy's gonna.
I don't need to have cheated on a significant other to have thoughts about cheating on significant other.
editing.
I do think that movies give us the space to judge and build empathy for folks. So that's, helpful. Like, I've never been in, a physically abusive relationship, but I've seen movies about it and known people that have, and I'm not judging them, but it helps. Movies have helped me build empathy for folks that may have, and that's good.
So I'm just saying.
Now you're talking
like,
about something, you're adding an asterisk if it's an abusive relationship.
We're just trying to get off of this because you don't seem to be having we agree. It's two separate principles, Alex. We're not talking about the one where if you're in a committed relationship, you shouldn't cheat. But if you
It seems to me like, because she said it just happens.
No, she said that even though you shouldn't do it, it still happens. You shouldn't speed, but people speed. You shouldn't cheat on your spouse. People have clearly cheated on their spouses in the past.
And is that wrong?
Yes, that's wrong. But that's what we're talking about is the fallout from that, and how the person who they cheated with is also has some culpability. It seems that you're not willing to acknowledge that the adulterer and the person they do the adultery with are both culpable for something.
Thank you. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
You're only focusing on the adulterer and not the person they're
because
doing the adultery with.
One has a commitment, the other does not.
But yes, you're correct, Alex. That is correct. One is in a committed relationship, and the other is like you're a hussy, Alex, and that's what we came here to tell you you're a hussy.
No, you're trying to muddy waters that don't need to be muddied.
That's what you do when you cheat.
You don't cheat on a significant other. If everybody followed that principle, there would be no situation where I would be hooking up with somebody who's in a relationship.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Right?
Yeah, if no one cheated, there would be no cheating. You're right. That's
correct.
Yep.
Okay.
No one cheated.
So why are people disagreeing with me? If
no one's disagreeing with you
cheated,
about that. No one's disagreeing with you about that. We're talking about who all is culpable.
Kyle, he doesn't get it.
I know.
Just let it go.
Kirk, any closing thoughts on Babygirl?
Well, yeah, I didn't think Babygirl was that deep, and it's interesting that we got an entire debate out of it. So that's been great. Yeah.
This has to be the wildest
Most
podcast
chaotic,
you've
yeah.
done. It has to be.
Is it? Let me think. I don't want to debate that, but next time we'll be talking about Kirk knows.
Is that Joy?
Joy Ford might have been in a commercial during a that is Joy Ford on TV. We're watching the Rams versus the Vikings, and this is that's a couple
Good
of
on
folks.
her.
Good job,
All
Joy
right.
Ford. We'd love to have you on the show.
Next week, we'll be talking about Complete Unknown with Mick Lynch.
I think Nick Palatichuk is going to be on. We're going to have Mick and Nick.
Right.